I'm Joel Simpson, and you're watching the debate edition of Frank Discussions. In this format, the co-hosts take assigned positions, one for and one against the moot, regardless of their personal views. The arguments you hear here are not necessarily their own opinions, but are made in adherence with the rules of the debate. The goal is to challenge ideas and spark critical thinking.
Hey guys, it's Abina and Kimal here. We're back with our debates. Today, our moot is legal changes to combat LGBT discrimination must wait until society is ready. I am proposing, and Comrade King over there is opposing. Here it goes. The time for justice, the time for freedom, and the time for equality is always right now. That is one of my favorite quotes from the brilliant movie, The Great Debaters. When we accepted this moot, I said, damn, I'll get to invoke the words of Samantha Book. As it so happens, the team voted for me to propose, and Kimal drew the lucky straw to oppose. Anticipating that Comrade King over here might invoke that quote if he watched the movie, I cogitated on how exactly I'll be able to rebut it. There is no more an appropriate time for justice, peace, freedom, and equality as the present. The aim of instituting legal changes to secure basic human rights for the LGBT community must indeed be to ensure freedom, their freedom to safely exist in the country in which they have been born in a manner that doesn't oppress others, but free themselves. It is for them to have equality, so that they can realize gainful employment in a position in which they're qualified. And it is for them to have justice, if they are still discriminated against. I listed justice last because I believe that should be the final step. In order for a building to stand, it needs proper foundation. In order for a flower to bloom, it needs the right conditions. In order for the system to work, there must be the right framework. In order for any legal amendments to be efficient in minimizing the suffering in LGBT communities, suffering that stems from discrimination, we need the right conditions. Don't you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
What are those conditions? An educated society, a tolerant society, and a community that understands that their rights should not be an encumbrance to the rights of others. Very few would argue that there aren't already measures in place that should work for the protection of our brothers and sisters and, not forgetting, non-binary members of the community. But for the benefit of those who might not readily identify this, let me give a jarring example. Some years ago, a few of my friends and me, we visited a popular city night spot. We danced, we had a few drinks. I remember quite a few tequila. I could handle my tequila. And we were having a good time until we weren't anymore. We were forced to leave that establishment on our own volition after a group of men started hurling ice in our direction. They saw my friend dancing, the guy we were with. He's a member of the community, and they saw him dancing with his friends, not paying them any attention, and that offended them. We left that establishment. The girls went home, and my friend went to another night spot. By the time my friend was finished with his night, he went to get some food by border, and these hateful men attacked him.
Physically attacked him.
Physically attacked him. They kicked him. They left him in pain that tortured his body for days and memories that tortured his mind for much longer. It took him a very long time before he could stop thinking everyone was after him. I remember even after we went into a gym, and there was this guy doing boxing in the gym. He had on a hoodie. And my friend was convinced that this guy was there to hurt him. That is how the experience left him traumatized. The point is, assault is a crime. We don't need to look into protection for LGBT community specifically to know that assault is already a crime, no matter who it's inflicted on. Straight or gay, black or Indian, rich or poor, assault is a crime. But it did not stop that group of tortured men from manifesting their hate and insecurities. And my friend was left with no justice. What is worse, the matter was widely reported, but it wasn't a big deal. It went away. Why? Because society seems generally indifferent to the suffering of members of the community. They are a minority, and very few seem to care. What we need to do is bridge the gap. People need to start seeing LGBT rights as human rights. We need to do education to suppress hate and discrimination. What good would laws do if we have citizens who do not understand why those laws are in place and thus would not abide by them? Police ranks who do not enforce the law. It would be useless. We need to change the attitudes of people, eradicating hate for LGBT. We will never be able to fully rid the world of homophobia, but we need to minimize it. No human being who identifies as good would seek to delay justice, freedom, and equality. But those who want things to work and not be on the books would ensure that the right conditions exist or are created. To force upon Guyanese what they are simply not ready for would result in nothing more but hate. What do you think?
Thank you very much, Abina. That was wonderful. I was very curious about what kind of argument you would come with, given that I felt that the position you had to take seemed to be inconsistent with your personal views. And this is very interesting. I didn't know what to expect, but I'm pleased.
Okay.
So I'm going to open by talking about some of the basics of the community, because when we talk about LGBT rights and LGBT, the acronym, people may feel turned away from it because they see it as this amorphous thing based on what they see on social media and in other forms of media from the Western world, from the US, the UK, where you would say they have more progressive societies where they do have what you call LGBT rights. But in various countries, what we think is LGBT rights, it just may not look the same as what's happening in America or Canada, in Guyana, because the contexts are very different. So first I want to talk about what LGBT means, right? So we have L for lesbian, meaning women who are attracted to women and who love women. G, gay, which can refer to both men and women, but in the context of the acronym, refers to men who love men and are attracted to men. B, for bisexual, which could be a man or a woman being attracted to the opposite gender as well as the same gender. And then there's transgender, which refers to a person who identifies with a gender that's not consistent with the one they were assigned at birth, typically with the way they were raised by their family. Right? So now that we've gotten that out of the way, I want to talk about what LGBT rights mean in a Guyanese context. So we're going to talk about what organizations in Guyana want when they advocate to the government for LGBT rights. So we have the Society Against Sexual Orientation Discrimination, which is led by Joel Simpson. And I, in preparing for this discussion, talked to him about some of the legal safeguards that they're looking for. Because when people think LGBT rights, they think, oh, they want marry, they want this, they want that. Let's talk about what the specific laws or laws that should be struck down that you're looking for. So the first thing is that we have a Prevention of Discrimination Act, right? And I think the name of the act is pretty self-explanatory, but the act is very limited. Right now, it prevents discrimination against people on the basis of things like religion, sex, color, disability, and so on, a wide variety of groupings and categories. But right now, the Prevention of Discrimination Act is limited in that it only prevents discrimination in the area of employment, training, and things like that. So it's limited to employment, whereas in some other countries, you have protection from discrimination in access to education and access to health care.
So that is what they're looking for now?
So what they're looking for is for there to be an inclusion in the Prevention of Discrimination Act of sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression.
And speaking to Mr. Simpson, did he tell you that there are cases right now where persons are denied health care or education based on their sexual orientation?
I did not speak to him specifically about that,
Okay.
but I have looked at research on Guyana that speaks to people who experience varying forms of discrimination and
And that
violence
was
when they try to access.
documented?
Yes, that was documented. So I'm going to get into that.
Okay.
So, seeing as there are categories that speak to sex and religion and disability and so on, having sexual orientation in there would ensure that the law bans discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation in employment. So if you go into the public service, for example, and you apply for a job and you go to your interview and the person interviewing you sees that you're gay and doesn't want to hire you on that basis, they're not allowed to do that because the law wouldn't allow it.
Okay.
So that's with respect to sexual orientation. The same could happen for gender identity
So
and
who's
gender
going to
expression.
say that that is why the man didn't hire you? How are you going to prove?
Some people who are homophobic are way more blatant
Okay.
in their homophobia.
Okay.
Obviously, people will express their prejudice in sometimes more subtle ways that are harder to pinpoint. But it's important for us to have these minimum safeguards there,
Yeah.
right? So gender identity is there or would be there so that a person who is transgender would not be discriminated against and be fired or refuse the job because they're transgender. And then there's gender expression, which would prevent discrimination against a person who is not necessarily trans, but they may express themselves in a way that's not consistent with general societal ideas about how a man or a woman should act. You know, because sometimes you may have a tomboyish woman or a more feminine man, and people may see the way you act or hear the way you talk, and they may make assumptions about what your sexuality is, about what your gender identity is, and it may or may not be the case. But having gender expression there, in addition to gender identity, would protect not just transgender people, but people who are not transgender, who don't act in a way that's consistent with general ideas about their gender, so that they can be protected too. So, you know, when we talk about LGBT rights, people who are in opposition to it, they like to say things like, oh, they want special rights. It's not special rights. It's the inclusion of the category in there that would protect you from discrimination on the basis of your sexual orientation, gender identity,
there
or
you
gender
are.
expression.
You're agreeing with me that we need to first educate the people so that they will know that you're not even looking for special rights. You're looking for fundamental human rights that should be applied to the community. So that should be the first stage.
I absolutely think that education should be done so that people can understand why certain legal changes would have to be made. But I'm just giving you this baseline of explaining to our listeners what LGBT rights are before I get into my substantive argument.
Wow.
So in addition to adding these categories to the Prevention of Discrimination Act, one of the things that SASAD is actually also advocating for is for the scope of the act to be expanded to include things like access to healthcare and access to education. So this would not only benefit people who are being discriminated against on the basis of being part of the LGBT community, but people who are discriminated against if they're a woman or if they are Muslim or something, you know? So that's what they want. The scope of the advocacy is not just to protect people who are LGBT, but to expand the protections for all people so that when they try to access these basic services that are important for all people to be able to live constructive, fruitful lives, they'll be able to do that with the protection of the law. And if they feel they've been slighted, then they can go to the court or they can make some other complaints so that they can find redress. And specific to men who have sex with men, right? So I'm not going to say gay men. This is a term, men who have sex with men, that they use in healthcare. And they'll use it because sometimes a man, based on his sexual behavior, has sex with men, but he doesn't identify as gay or bisexual. And so they use this term to be inclusive. And yeah. So there are laws on the books that criminalize what they call buggery, which is penetrative sex between men.
I know what buggery is, Kemal.
Oh, I just have to explain it because the law doesn't specifically explain what buggery is, but I understand that it's old colonial era legislation that we inherited from the British, right? And the thing about this buggery law is that it is so strict that it says that if you're convicted of it, then you could go to prison for as long as your entire life.
Yes, but this applies to everybody. This is not discriminatory because I understand that men and women engage in that as well.
Yeah, men and women.
It's becoming very popular amongst the young people.
Absolutely. It is very popular amongst the young people. And it's not enforced today, but it disproportionately would impact the LGBT community if it is to be enforced. But let me tell you how it has been used in recent years, right? People who are gay, men who are gay, would report that policemen would harass them, you know, when they go out on their dates and so on, and threaten to arrest and charge them under these laws, to extort bribes or to otherwise harass them. This is something that's easier for you to do to two gay people out on a date as opposed to a heterosexual couple, right? It would be more preposterous for you to arrest a man or woman and take them down to the station and say...
But from my understanding, Kemal, this law is not enforced.
No, it's not enforced. So what are you telling me about? Police are still using it to harass people. Police use the law to harass people.
I've never heard about this.
No, you've never heard about it. But SASAD has heard reports about it. And the LGBT people who are harassed by the police, those people know about it. And I'm telling you because I've done...
And it's like on record.
What do you mean when you say on record? So
SASAD has this kind of advocacy drive, and they do a lot of it. I remember even in the leading up to the last election, they had a whole town hall. They reported this to the authorities that the community is being harassed in this way?
Yes.
Okay.
And furthermore, we have had foreign groups that come to do research in Guyana, and they document the violence and discrimination that the community faces. So there is no shortage of research that speaks to all the ills that the community faces, right? So I think that's it on the specifics of what LGBT rights entails.
Wait, you're going to your full argument yet?
So my full argument, based on the things you have said, is first of all that I agree with what you have said
I agree
about
with
the
me too.
importance of education. But when people typically argue, well, I know when some people argue that the society must wait, the
That the
argument
changes must wait until society is ready.
No, what I'm trying to say is that people use this argument as a kick the can down the road kind of argument. I don't have a problem with the idea that people need to be educated. Every time a government wants to amend the law or put in a new bill, they have to educate the society. They have to put the bill out, which they do, and then they consult with the people.
But you would agree that this is a special case. This is systematic hate. This is systematic rejection. This is people not understanding what it really is. I worked at an organization once, several years. And there are a few things that we weren't allowed to report on. Because the head of that organization believed in this copycat syndrome, which is a real thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of suicide cases during that time, we would not publicize. If it's really bad, you would put it, hide it away or stuff, because he felt as if putting this out there would give people ideas to do it. And another thing that he was strict on, he didn't want nothing from SASAD. He didn't want nothing about, quote unquote, he wanted man business. We are at that place where people think that it's something you could catch. It's something that could, if you read about it, if you give them rights, you will inspire somebody else to become gay. Like it's something that people would want to, a road that people want to journey down. We need to attack it from the very base, teaching people that about all the truth about it. That is not something that you could catch sitting down next to somebody or reading it in the newspaper and decide, oh, this person was beaten for being gay.
Yeah.
Let me try it.
Yeah.
And you have to remember, too, that a lot of people, it's their religious belief. So teaching them tolerance is something that we have to, it's not like a regular law or you can just change something that is progressive, that it isn't embedded in the society. So you cannot compare it. That's what I'm trying to say. You can't compare it to a regular law that we might want to introduce. When you're introducing local content law, yes, you did stakeholders review and sensitization, but that's different to this situation. Don't you agree?
Yes, but don't you think that these conversations are happening all the time? Discourse about LGBT people in media, people consuming foreign media too and learning. SASAD has done work with, for example, the police, where it has educated them on constructive ways to engage with people from the community and so on. There are various sections of society that are constantly being exposed to and inculcated with knowledge that they can use to, be sensitized. But further to the argument you're making about the need for people to be educated, tell me, Abina, where is that benchmark for you? How many years do you think we should wait for us to tell a 50-year-old gay man who has experienced his entire life with rampant discrimination, to tell him that maybe let's wait 5 years down the line, let's wait 10 years down the line until you might be dead and you will never have the opportunity to see your country change its laws in a way that begins the process of showing you the dignity that you deserve as a Guyanese person? Where do you draw that line? 5 years, 10 years, 15 years?
No, so I don't know if you're listening or if you're preparing for your argument when I first started the conversation, but I was saying the time is always now. The time is now for us to prepare, but it would be useless if we just go straight into these laws without giving a systematic preparation to start from ground level in teaching people to rip out hate and discrimination before you put the laws, because you could very well have the laws and the very policemen would not enforce it. And very people would be rebellious and make it an aim to go against the law.
Okay, hold on a second, right? What education does a person need so that you can go and change a colonial era buggery law that bans buggery? What education does a person need for you to go and remove that law? If this law is removed, it affects their lives in zero way. It just removes a law that is disrespectful, that is disproportionately used to infringe on the dignity of a community of people, and it will affect
that's the thing.
a straight man's life or a straight woman's life in no way.
I do not know that in this stage of our society, that is a discriminatory law.
You don't know?
No.
I've
That's
just explained to you.
specifically-
I have just explained to you how the law is used to disproportionately bully and harass people from the community. And you don't understand that?
I understand what you're saying, but in
Yeah.
the absence of data and in the absence of me being exposed to this ever in my life, seeing or hearing that this is true, when I'm seeing every day on TikTok. The other day I was watching a TikTok with this popular guy, Terrence, I think, and he was saying how much who's his social media crush because of some video that he saw with a young lady and the act that she was performing, and that is a straight man. So I am not so sure with how young people are enjoying this act these days.
Yeah.
That it's so much discriminatory against only members of the community.
No, it's the law.
Like if I'm to advocate for laws for the community, that would be the last thing on my agenda. I would more care about things that affect their daily lives.
Yeah.
If it's a case
So
where they
it's
can't access health care or they can't get a job or other things.
Good, and that's one of the things I've told you about.
Okay.
Expanding the Prevention of Discrimination Act to protect people who are facing discrimination when they try to access education or health care. And, Bina, on the topic of education, discrimination and sentiment that affects different communities negatively, it sometimes education or the kind of sensitization that you want a government to do, it's not going to wipe out anti-gay or anti-trans sentiment.
We're never going to find a utopian society.
Good. Go to America, go to the UK, go to Canada, where these societies have been some of the first to root out these laws and put discrimination protections. And still today, you're seeing waves and waves of hate against these groups of people.
Right. So that's the underlying cause, the hate.
Good. So my point is that you can put the laws in place so that the government can begin the process of defending a disrespected community. But you cannot leave the laws in place to validate that kind of sentiment.
Okay. You mentioned America and Canada. In South Africa, that has some of the best laws against discrimination. It has legalized gay marriages, but still the crime rate is so high. You ever heard about corrective rape?
Yeah.
Good. So what they do is the lesbians, they rape them thinking that the reason women love women is because they never experience a man. And once you taste the sweet of a man, then, your whole life can change. And they rape these women, even though there are laws to protect LGBT. Rape, whether it's LGBT or people, what do you call it, people who are straight? Jesus.
Straight people?
Yeah, straight people, but there's another name.
Heterosexuals?
Heterosexuals, yes. Whether you're gay or heterosexual, rape is a crime. And still, many people in South Africa rape women to see if they can correct their sexuality. So making something illegal is not always the answer.
No, one law changed in isolation is not the answer. You made the point that education is necessary. I agree. There needs to be a multifaceted approach to addressing this problem of hate and discrimination. We need legal changes. We need sensitization, as you've said, and the sensitization is already happening.
But not at the level it should be. Because many people still think it's taboo to talk about certain things. I understand and I see that the community has a lot of allies, but sometimes these allies have to find themselves defending themselves. Oh, I'm not gay, but I believe in human rights, and I shouldn't have to be gay to support the movement. Because people still have this idea that once you're associated with somebody who's gay or you have a lot of gay friends, that somehow you're gay as well.
Okay, let's sensitize and let's change the laws.
Which one gonna come first, the chicken or the egg?
We can do both at the same time. Sensitization is happening right now when you didn't need to change the law to do that.
So tell me about some of the sensitization programs we have right now.
Well, I'm not talking about government, but if we're going to talk
There's so
about...
much no more a non-governmental organization can do without the support of government.
Yeah, so SASAD has done sensitization with the police, for example, as I've told you.
And you've seen a remarkable change in the police force and the way they handle LGBTQ matters.
Well, I understand that the harassment that the community faces from the police, it's not necessarily as widespread as it used to be.
Okay.
So sensitization works.
So that means we're making progress.
Yes, progress is being made because
So now we need a study to measure the progress and see if we're at that place.
if the levels of acceptance have increased. That has been done. Studies have been done.
So what's the level we had? Is there like a benchmark of 50%, 60%? What is it?
No, I don't have the number for you, but SASAD has pointed to studies that have been done which studied the population at a certain interval, and then years later they studied again, and then they found that there has been an increase in acceptance levels, in attitudes of tolerance toward people in the community. And Abina, I mean, you could remember years ago when people like Nigel London and so were marching through the streets and calling for the buggery law to be enforced and things like that. I mean, I don't see that kind of parades happening today. I mean, 25 years ago.
Let me tell you something. You might not see that kind of parade, but recently there was a sign in Berbice, no gays allowed.
Yeah.
And Nazima Ragabir, she went to the location. And by the time she got there, the sign was removed, but she took out a photo. So when I went to the original post to see what it was, if you see the comments, Kimal, if you see the comments under this post, and you telling me that society is accepting?
I didn't say the society is accepting. I said that attitudes have improved. And I can express this in a nuanced way.
Okay.
Personally, I believe that the majority of Guyanese society is not accepting. But I believe that most Guyanese people are, in the way they live, at least tolerant, in that they believe that it's important for you to respect the way I live, and I will live and respect you to live the way you live. Regardless of if you, based on your sincerely held religious beliefs, don't agree that a person should be living like that, people act on the basis that you should not go into that man's house and tell him that he cannot act the way you believe it's sinful to act, because that's your belief.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. We have the pride parades happening that started... I think it was 2018 was the first Pride Parade, and that's been happening every year. And they have, every year when they have Pride, they have a number of events where the community comes together and they go celebrate, and they celebrate who they are. So we're in a society today where action is being taken in many aspects of our society to sensitize people.
Okay.
And while education is important, sentiment could go back and forth just like that. I mean, look at the issues that are happening in America right now when you come to the conversation about race relations. It was not this way 10 years ago. So hate can come and go.
That's a
but
good point.
a person's rights, a person's human rights is important. And I do not think...
And laws could change and change.
Yeah, and I do not think
And be
that...
repealed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do not think that we should look to the tyranny of the majority to tell a minority of people that they have to wait to have their dignity respected. I mean, that's why we have anti-discrimination legislation, so that minorities who face discrimination, they can be protected.
Okay, Kamal. Definitely, I can't debate that point. But I want to say too, very importantly, that I believe the community, the minority that you speak about, has the responsibility not to set back the movement. There are so many lesbian, gays, and bisexuals who conduct themselves in a manner of that demands respect. They're well-contributing members of society. But then we have a few who help or who are against the cause in their mannerisms and the way they behave. I know there's one who's popular for beating women. And I believe that if we want to, as a collective, move forward in the society in securing rights for all, we cannot behave in a manner that will cause people to push back on the movement. So I think the responsibility lies on both sides.
I agree with the general point that everybody should conduct themselves in a way that brings pride to who they are and the communities that they represent.
Just one second. There was this one time,
Yeah.
this well-known gay person raided somebody I know.
Rated?
Yes, was walking behind him, like troubling him, wanting to touch him and stuff.
Yeah.
And as the young man walked faster,
Yeah.
so did this other person increase until the two of them were running up the road. Instances like that would cause people to push back against LGBTQ rights. But continue.
Yeah, I think that with every minority, when they're members of that group that act in a way that the majority of the population won't like, they'll attribute that quality to those people. But I think you will agree with me when I say that if a woman commits a heinous crime, or if a Christian or a Muslim commits a heinous crime, or an Indian or a black person commits a heinous crime, it is not right to say that that is representative of their race or their gender. So it's also equally unfair to say that if one gay person or 10 gay people or trans people operates in a rambunctious or criminal manner, that this quality should be applied to people of the entire community. As you've said, people are diverse, and every community, every category of people, they have people who what you would consider upstanding members of society, and then there will be criminals. There are going to be polite, quiet people, and then there will be loud, rambunctious people. That's what humanity is. We're so different, and the beauty is our difference. So that's my closing comment. I hope you enjoyed this debate, and I would love to hear what you guys think in the comments about whether the society has to wait to be ready for LGBT people to be treated with the dignity that they deserve. Thanks for tuning in.